That's Friday. No, this was one of those I was going to try and make myself stay in one spot. So we all know that I can sit here for just a little bit, but I normally can't sit in one spot. So I'm going to try. But there we go. Hey, if you're out in the foyer, go ahead and continue. If you're checking your kids in or you're getting coffee, for all of you that are coffee drinkers after 6 o'clock, the Lord is highly favored with you. That is why you can get coffee after 6 and still go to bed. So, hey, we are going to end up tonight in Ecclesiastes. So if you've got your Bibles, want to go over to Ecclesiastes. Some people love to read Ecclesiastes. Some people don't like it. If you don't know where Ecclesiastes is, go over to Proverbs and keep going south. I don't know if where you're at right now is in your own personal life, but I also know that for the majority of us, somewhere deep within our brains, we get locked in our mind. We get locked in our thoughts. We get locked in our own idea of what even reality is. And so we forget sometimes even what it means to just come in, and what does it mean? What does reverence mean? And what does it mean to recognize that I'm standing in the presence of a holy Father? You know, sometimes we've heard that sometimes speaking less is more powerful. If I'm in a counseling session or I'm in a conversation, sometimes it's very hard because, like most of us, you get a tidbit of information and you're ready to solve the equation. You know, in math class, as you went from basic math to algebra and to all of these others, you would possibly see the answer, but your teacher would always say, I want to see the problem worked out. Like, you've got to be kidding me. I got the answer. But it wasn't about the answer. It was about how did you get to the answer. And a lot of us, and so Ecclesiastes chapter 5. We're just going to pick it up in verse 1. Walk prudently when you go to the house of God, and draw near rather than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they do evil. Do not be rash with your mouth. Let not your heart utter anything hastily before God. For God is in heaven and you on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes through much activity, and a fool's voice is known by his many words. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to pay it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you have vowed. Better not to vow than to vow and not pay. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, nor say before the messenger of God that it was an error. Why should God be angry at your excuse and destroy the work of your hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words, there is also vanity, but fear God. Anybody ever been able to, don't raise your hand, to tell a fool because they talk too much? They kind of gave it away because they overtalked. You're like, oh, you overtalked, gotcha. Didn't take much detective work on my part. We see this story here, and we see where Solomon's talking about we're to enjoy life. But enjoying life doesn't start with money or success. Solomon starts it here with worship. Because our relationship with God is the foundation of all true enjoyment. But Solomon also knows we can get worship wrong. Not what song did they sing and that was the wrong song type of worship. I'm meaning more not from a standpoint of here, but our worship with the Father, our talking with the Father. Because we can just go through the motions. We can even be careless in the presence of God. Do you realize that we can come into the presence of God and we can over-talk and we can miss what God's trying to tell us? Because we spent more time talking than simply just posturing. We talked about that a little bit Sunday, the church at Antioch. We don't know their prayer. We see their heart. We see what they were positioning themselves to do. And it's almost as if they just went into a moment and just sat and just said, Lord, we're here. Now let's listen. But we get uncomfortable in the silence. Because somewhere in the silence, there's got to be something going on. A lot of people sleep with TVs on because they need some kind of noise. Or we sit down and I was awful at it. I could sit down and study and I would put the television on, not on anything that I really cared about, but it was just the noise. Just needed something to take that other part of my brain and cause it to just be quiet for a little bit. But when we recognize that we're coming into the presence of God, sometimes we begin to say things in the presence of God that we don't really mean. And I don't mean, have you ever stepped into a moment and you've promised everything under the sun? Lord, if you'll just do this. What was the reason behind that? It's because we're trying to manipulate, to facilitate through manipulation, God doing something on our behalf. Because we don't really believe that our faith and our trust in Him is big enough. So Lord, I'll give you my firstborn. I'll give you the secondborn. Lord, I'll give you the cat. I'll give you the dog. If you will just do this. And we over promise and we over word what we're trying to do. We can use religion to look good or to try to get something from God. Lord, you know the other day I went out and I talked to that person down the street that I really don't like. Lord, you know the other day when that commercial came on about all the animals all over the world that are just starving to death. And they said if I would just give $10.99. And I did. Remember that, God. And we're trying to use our good deeds to try to get access to the Father. And we're seeing this here. What's the warning? There's a warning that Solomon has put right here in verse 1 through verse 7. Don't be careless in the presence of God. Guard your steps. Verse 1, when you go into the house of God. Be aware of who you're approaching. This is not just some deity. This is the one that created everything. We don't have to go in fear, but in a reverential fear. Because we were reminded that Jesus was our mediator, is our mediator. He's our go-in-between. He's the one that's brought us into this moment. Verse 2, don't be quick with your mouth. Don't be hasty in your heart to utter just anything before God. God is in heaven and you're on earth. So sometimes it's worth our words being just few. Because we're not impressing God with our big, lofty words. God's not impressed when you pray a King James Version prayer. The these and the thous. God's not going, whoa, man, listen to him. But what he's hearing, he's seeing, is your heart. Matthew 6, verse 7, and when you pray, don't keep on babbling like the pagans, for they think they'll be heard because of their many words. Do you realize you can accomplish more with less words? Well, I prayed an hour. That's amazing. God wants us to spend time. But of that hour, how much of your prayer time consisted of you talking? Well, that's what prayer is. That's an aspect of prayer. Prayer is dialogue. Prayer is open communication. Prayer is yes, me having, that's okay to have a shopping list of things I really want God to work. That's okay to have a prayer journal with things on here that you want God to do. And you're asking and you're believing. But sometimes the greatest thing that we can do in a moment of prayer is to say absolutely nothing at all. Why? Because so often the voice of the Lord is that still, small, quiet voice that sometimes feels like an impression. It's something even just way down here that you're like, man, I feel like I hear God saying something. I feel like I hear God talking about something. But if I'm so active in my prayer about using all of the words, then all I can hear is my own self, and I can't hear Him speak. And this is where Solomon's at. It's better not to make a vow than to make one and not to fulfill it. Verse 5. God is not looking for big flashy commitments. He's looking for hearts that mean what they say. Ecclesiastes 5:6, do not let your mouth lead you into sin. So what's the wisdom? We got the warning. We got a danger. So what's the wisdom? Verse 1, come to God to listen, not just to talk. The Hebrew here literally says, draw near to listen. So that means bring my ear in close. That means when I'm here, I'm not just going to verbally talk, but I'm going to bring my ear. I'm going to listen intently. I'm going to posture my heart. Worship is not just about what you say, but it's about what you listen or what you hear. The wisdom is let your words be few. Reverence sometimes means slowing down, creating space, and remember who you're talking to. Are you good at making space, creating space for God to speak? I've gone through several leadership development courses when we were part of Victory Life, and one of the things that they really worked into us was being okay with the quiet. And sometimes as a leader, that would mean ask a question to the room, and when nobody answered, don't be in a rush. Be okay with awkward silence. Be okay with just sitting here and letting people contemplate, letting them think through, letting them hear. Because normally it would take a couple of minutes, even with a group of leaders, because nobody wanted to be the first. But then all of a sudden, one person would start speaking and it would open up the floodwaters and people would begin to speak. But we're too fast. Lord, I got 25 minutes to pray today. And you got 2 minutes because I got to go. Maybe it's time we get into some scenarios where we actually speak less and we spend some time in the quiet. Solitude really is a grace. Solitude, just hopping in your vehicle and not turning on the radio and just letting your mind go. I've had some of the best conversations with myself and with God when I didn't turn the radio on. Now, I've had good conversations with the radio on too. But there's those times where we got to be okay. And what's the wisdom in just these first 7? It's keep your vows and mean what you say. God values integrity. Man, if you are going to say all of these things, God, I'm going to do this, then you need to follow through with every ounce of your being to follow through with what you're saying. James 1:19, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Do you know how you become slow to become angry? Because you didn't speak. Because you listened. You let somebody verbally puke out all that they had to say before you jumped in. Because if we would be good at some of that, we would subvert some communication errors. We would subvert some tactical pursuit by the enemy to step into our family if we would just learn what it means to listen. Have I perfected that? My family could tell you, my wife and my kids could tell you, he doesn't bat 1,000. But is that what I want? Is that what I'm aiming for? I'm aiming for, let's just listen. Because I want to hear what's not being said as well. And I can't hear what's not being said if I'm speaking. Micah 6:8 reminds us, what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. We were made, you were made to enjoy God. But the joy begins when we honor Him as holy. Psalm 16 verse 11 says, you make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. Are you lacking joy? Well, Psalm 16:11 says, you will fill me with joy in your presence. It doesn't say, you will fill me with joy when you use lots of words. Sometimes it's just sitting in His presence. Last night I got home, and it was late when we finally got home. And I got a book in that I wanted to read. It was a little 100-page book. It's actually a really good book, Autopsy of a Dying Church by Rainier. Incredible little book. But I was like, you know what? I am going to, it's one of those that's little enough that I was determined, I'm going to read this book. And it was amazing, even within the atmosphere of my house. Didn't turn the TV on. Didn't turn on any soaking worship. I just let the room be quiet. Nathan was up here practicing for something for band, and Mandy was running errands. Natalie was in a room, and so it was just me and just reading. It was so refreshing. It's like, why don't I do this more often? You know, it's one of those Shazam moments. Wow, this is what it means to be quiet and to read and to all of these things. But it was just the opportunity then to, even as I was reading this book, for God to even show me, hey, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? And I got to have dialogue with the creator of the universe. The creator of the universe is waiting for me to have dialogue with Him. Dialogue means two-way conversation. Means I'm reading the book and He's going, hey, what do you think about that? Are you seeing any aspect of that in your life or even in the church? It was so refreshing. Did I have a Holy Ghost moment and I was slain in the Spirit and I was laying on the ground and I was doing? No. But it was as if it was just me and Him sitting in the living room with me sitting here and Him sitting there, and we were just having conversation. The holy God, the creator of the universe, desires to do that. Ecclesiastes 5, we're going to pick it up in verse 8. If you see the oppression of the poor and the violent perversion of justice and righteousness in a province, do not marvel at the matter, for high official watches over high official, and higher officials over them. Moreover, the profit of the land is for all. Even the king is served from the field. He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity. When good increase, they increase who eat them. So what profits have the owner except to see them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. There is a severe evil which I have seen under the sun, riches kept for their owner to this hurt. But those riches perish through misfortune. When he begets a son, there is nothing in his hand. And he came from his mother's womb. Naked shall he return, to go as he came. And he shall take nothing from his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a severe evil. Just exactly as he came, so shall he go. And what profit has he who has labored for the wind? All his days he also eats in darkness, and he has made much sorrow and sickness and anger. I have to ask, you feel better now? Man, it just sounds like all of a sudden Solomon is just he's going through something. After worship, we see this worship, Solomon shifts to something else that easily consumes our lives. Work and wealth. He's seen what many of us experience. We work hard, we accumulate more, but satisfaction keeps slipping through our fingers. The more we chase, the more elusive joy becomes. So what's the warning? Verse 8, if you see the poor oppressed in a district and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such thing, because corruption and greed and unfair power structures are everywhere under the sun. We live in a broken system. And if we think that just climbing on top of that system is going to make us happy, we're sorely going to be disappointed. We always think that just a little more will finally be enough. But the truth is, the love of money actually is a moving target. Lord, if I can just get to here, I'll be happy. Lo and behold, you're happy. But when you get to that level, all of a sudden the bills look different now. Well, Lord, I just need to get to here now, and then I'll be happy. And you get to there, and guess what? The struggle and the stress and the turmoil looks different now. It's chasing that love of money. 1 Timothy 6 says, those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is not money. Money is not evil. It's just an object. It's the love of money that can become evil. It's the pursuit of that can become evil. It's the pursuit of all of these things that we put our families aside. It's the pursuit of all these things that we put our marriage aside. It's the pursuit of all these things that we even say, you know what? I have got to work. Even though it's Sunday, I've got to work now on Sundays. And now we begin to do the things that got us to this point. We begin to put those on the back burner, because now we've got this appetite for the love of money that now is unquenchable. See, there's nothing wrong with money. Money can be a very, very good thing. One, I like to eat. I like air conditioning right now. And if I didn't have money, the air conditioning would be sparse and the food would be sparse as well. So there's this mindset that we've gotten into this, that money itself is evil. Money is not evil. But where's your heart at? We've gone from this idea in the first part of Ecclesiastes 5 of what is worship and what is reverence. But we see in verse 12 that sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. Don't raise your hand, but I believe probably almost everyone in here, I could probably go 99.9%, you have some aspect, you like money. And you would be okay with a little bit more. But there's things that begin to happen when our love for money becomes our passion. We begin to lose the ability to fall asleep. We begin to lose the ability to find rest. See, there's something even in when you begin to look at people that don't have money and tend to sleep better. It's a proven fact. Why? Because they got nothing to lose. They got nothing to lose, but when somebody's got this insatiable love of money, and it's not the fact of being rich, it's the love of money. David had wars and hardships that Solomon never had. Yet David said that he can lay down and sleep with a sense of security. Psalms 3:5, Psalms 4:8. But on the other hand, Solomon had to have soldiers surround him as he slept. Song of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 7. Serving the Lord will always benefit our sleep. Doesn't mean you're not going to go through a night. I mean, if you lay in bed tonight and you can't sleep, that doesn't mean that you're not serving the Lord. But if you go back and you look at what David was able to accomplish, a man that was covered in blood, because he was a man of war, and you see what Solomon was able to do. And yet David was able to find rest, and yet Solomon, they say, is probably still the richest man to ever live to this day. And yet he struggled with rest. Could have been all his concubines and all of his wives that kept him up. It was all the nagging. But, it could possibly be, just saying, I can't imagine. And even worse, wealth can vanish in a moment. We can't take it with us. What's the one thing you don't see when you're at a funeral and you pass the procession going down the road? You don't see the U-Haul truck behind the hearse. You don't get to see the U-Haul truck taking everything, which is slightly unfair, because we spend a lifetime gathering things only to begin to disperse them in our later years. We work hard for these things. Luke chapter 12, verse 15 says, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance of possessions." It's not about the possessions. See the beauty of some of the stuff that even with the Honduras group and with some of the stuff that we've gotten to do around here, it's finding people that love the Lord, whether they have much or they have little. And they love passionately the things of the kingdom of God. Money itself is not going to cause me to become a greater follower of Him. I only become a greater follower of Him because I spend time in worship. Money, the love of money, the pursuit of getting more, actually has the potential to pull me the other direction. But this is why we have to come back to our heart. This is why we have to come back to a moment of worship. We have to be okay. We even have to work with, what does contentment look like? Ecclesiastes 6:9 says, "Better what the eye sees than the roving of the appetite." 1 Timothy 6:6, "Godliness with contentment is great gain." I can have more in my heart and in my soul with a level of contentment when I'm pursuing Him. It's the godliness that pursues after Him. God is not opposed to wealth, but He's opposed to us putting our trust in our wealth. Because God is our provider. The gift isn't the stuff, it's the ability to enjoy it. The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether he eats little or much. When we live with contentment, we can work hard, rest well, and enjoy what we have without endless cravings for more. But when we stop striving and start trusting, we can finally enjoy what God has placed in our hands right now. Guys, when we pursue the wealth, we miss out on the opportunities. I've heard people say it before we had kids, when we were dinks, double income, no kids. Like, when you have kids, it's going to go by fast. Year 1 with Nathan did not go by fast. Year 2, maybe a little faster. But you know what? I look back now, and it's gone by really fast. He'll be 19 in 2 weeks. It's gone by really, really fast. And there was the opportunity that I could have missed a lot of what he did because I was pursuing the dollar. I was pursuing what I would consider to make my family happy. I could have missed out on a lot of things. But contentment is going, God, I've only done what I can do. Now I am going to enjoy the blessings that you've given me. And the blessings that you've given me are a wife and 2 kids. I want to be around for those moments. And so what are you pursuing? What are you putting in first place in your life? Hebrews 13:5 reminds us, keep our lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. Because God has said, never will I leave you. Never will I forsake you. What's the one thing we've got to walk away from? That he'll never leave me nor forsake me. When I can capture that essence in my heart and in my mind, I become the most blessed man on the planet. That no matter what, he's not turning his back on me. Because contentment isn't about how much we have. It's about who we have. When we trust in the presence of God, we can truly enjoy his provision. Whether I'm in a season of much or I'm in a season of less, I can enjoy his provision. When my eyes are stayed on him, when I'm focusing on him, when I'm pursuing after him. Let's go to verse 18 of chapter 5. Here is what I have seen. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which God gives him. For that is his heritage. As for every man to whom God has given riches and wealth and given him power to eat of it, to receive his heritage and rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. For he will not dwell unduly on the days of his life because God keeps him busy with the joy of his heart. What is your mind focused on? What are you centered on? After all the warnings about wealth and worship, Solomon gives us a gift. Permission to enjoy life. To enjoy what God's given us. We don't have to live anxious or driven or guilty. We can actually enjoy the life we've been given if we receive it as a gift. What you have, the life that you have, is a gift. Are you blessing your gift or are you kicking your gift? Are you saying, Lord, I thank you that you've blessed me with this? Or are you saying, God, what mess is this? Because what you have is a gift. So what's the wisdom? Solomon's not promoting indulgence. He's promoting gratitude. So if we go back and we see worship and we see this love of money and how it can drive us, now we're talking about enjoying this life, which is gratitude. How do we enter back into worship? Gratitude. How do we enter the gates? With thanksgiving in our hearts. Gratitude. So it's almost as if right here in chapter 5, there's this circle. And we walk this out and we have to continue to point ourselves back and go back to a worship to come back from gratitude. It's not just about having things, it's about being able to enjoy them. Because verse 19 says this is a gift of God. The ability to enjoy life's simple gifts comes from God. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. Enjoy life's ordinary moments, the meals, the conversations, the meaningful work. Because this, leave them as grateful hearts. Our life is so busy that to sit at the kitchen table and have everybody there is a very rare thing. Doesn't mean we don't eat together, just at home at the table. And as the summer has gone on, and as I've looked even at the life of my kids and where we're at in our lives, and it probably is partially age, but I'm so thankful for all the years that I've gotten to sit around the table and listen to my kids say stupid stuff. Talk about the silly. When they were younger, talk about the boogers and farts. Then I was like, we're at the dining room table. But you know what? I'm thankful and I'm grateful for those moments. I could have missed those moments. Are there times when I've looked back and I was like, man, I wish I would have responded differently? Yes. But you know what I get to do instead of beating myself over my head? Lord, I'm thankful that you revealed that to me. Now I don't get to repeat the process. Now I just pick up right where we're at. And Lord, I'm thankful for what you're doing. When we receive life as a gift, when we look at all that we've got going on as this gift, when we look at it as a gift, this frees us from constantly analyzing, comparing, or even regretting. Everything I have is a gift. Everything that you have is a gift. God fills our hearts with gladness when we simply enjoy what's in front of us. How do I know that that's truth? Philippians 4. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Have I arrived there? No. Am I in pursuit of that? Yes. As people of God, that's what we have to be in pursuit of. It's finding the contentment in everything that's going on. We don't need to be more joyful. We need to have eyes to see what God's already provided. What has God already provided for you? Every good and perfect gift comes from above. And who does it come from? The Father. Every gift we have. When we live with gratitude, we begin to experience what Solomon describes: real joy, real peace, and real enjoyment. You want to live a life of real peace, of real joy, of real enjoyment? Then we look at life as a gift. We come into the presence of God and recognize that He is holy. Solomon hadn't given us an equation or a formula for success. He's given us an invitation to joy. It's an invitation to joy, not a shallow, fleeting Christmas afternoon joy. The excitement the kids have as they see all the gifts and like, it's Christmas! In the afternoon, they're like, oh, the only thing that's left now is take the tree down. But a joy that goes way beyond when we come in and we begin to look at our life and we become thankful for what we have. It's not about the next vacation or the next season of life. It's about what's available right now. And it's a joy that's available to you. And the joy starts with reverence. Worshiping God with awe, listening before speaking, coming to Him, not to perform, but to know Him. It's a joy that grows with contentment, letting go of the endless chase for more, trusting God's provision today, not just hoping for someday. And it's a joy that flourishes with gratitude. It's reverence, contentment, and gratitude. Receiving each moment, each meal, each breath as a gift. So the truth of Ecclesiastes 5 is pressing on us is this: you don't have to earn this life. You don't have to strive to deserve it. You don't have to manipulate your way to joy. You just simply get to receive it. Life itself is a gift. And God's already placed that joy in your hands. But the question for you is, will you slow down long enough to enjoy it? So as you step in to the rest of this week, it's real basic. Enjoy the conversation. Eat the meal. Spend the time. Worship with sincerity. Work with integrity. Rest without guilt. And give thanks. Because all of it, every moment, is a gift from God. Enjoy it all. Worship. Be content. Have gratitude. Change the perspective of your week by simply changing those three things. Less words. Be content. And have a heart of gratitude. Lord, tonight, you are the giver of every good thing. Lord, I ask that you would teach us to worship you with the reverence and the honor that you deserve. Lord, to begin to work on this level of contentment. Lord, to receive each day with gratitude. Tomorrow, before we wake up, God, before we put our feet on the floor, let us have an aspect of gratitude. Slow our hearts. Quiet our striving. And fill us with a deep joy that's just your presence. Lord, let us enjoy the life that you've given. And as we enjoy the life that you've given, may we bring you glory. As we enjoy the time that we have with family and friends, let it bring you glory. As we work, as we strive in our jobs to just be the best that we can be, let it bring you glory. But let us not get so caught up in the performance of our job and our duty and our assignment that we forget about the relationships that are around. So Lord, I thank you for my kids. I thank you for Nathan. I thank you for Natalie. Lord, I thank you that they are the blessings to our home. I thank you for my wife, God. I thank you for the opportunity that I get to walk with her. I thank you for what you're wanting to do in our home. I pray that we would always come back to an aspect of gratitude. And Lord, each one of us in our homes, Lord, let us have those same kind of prayers with sincerity about our kids and our grandkids, our spouses, our relationships, our friends. Let us worship. Let us worship the Creator of the universe, the one that holds all of us in the palm of His hand, that knows the very hairs on top of our head, that knows what's going on, even down to the molecular level of our bodies. So we're just thankful where you've guided and you've directed. And we're thankful that you don't push us away, but you welcome us back in with that beautiful level of grace, which is not a freedom to sin, but it's a love to say, my blood covers it. If you'll just come back. And as we pursue you and worship you in the awe that you bring, the desire to do the things of the world, the sinful things of our lives, will grow less and less. So Lord, we honor you. Just pray a blessing.